Welcome back to your Friday Orange and Brown Talk podcast. Doug Lesmerises, Kay Cabot, Ashley Bastock, and Scott Patsko. We're going to give you a preview of free agency, which Mary Kay starts Monday, right? Can we lay it out here for the good listeners? What's the timing on this stuff? Whatever it is, it's about to get underway. It's going to be a whirlwind next week. When does stuff really start?
Well, Monday is the day that the legal tampering period opens. So that is the day in which teams can engage in negotiations. They can talk money and contract with players, but you can't actually consummate the deal until the league year opens on March 16th, 2 days later. So there's a 2-day legal tampering period. But of course, all of that stuff really started at the combine last week, where most business is done. That's where players find out if their teams want to re-sign them and who else wants them and how much they're going to get paid. So there are no surprises really by the time you get to this point.
Mary Kay, who is your name that you think the Browns should target in free agency?
Well, I'm gonna leave Jarvis Landry for now. Amari Cooper is still under contract with the Dallas Cowboys, and he is under contract next year for a base salary of $20 million and I think a cap hit of $22 million. But the Cowboys are in somewhat of cap trouble and they need some space. And there's a lot of talk that he is going to get released. And I think he has a bonus or something coming up on March 20th, or his salary fully guarantees. Yes, I think it guarantees on March 20th. So something's probably going to happen with him. And if he does hit the market and become available, he is somebody that I definitely think the Browns should target. I think he gives you that immediate number one tight end, receiver that, he's a 4-time Pro Bowler. He is that, blue chip elite type of receiver that the Browns absolutely need. That X guy, the speedy, the deep threat, the great hands, great production, has 1,000 yards consistently, reaches the end zone, catches touchdown passes. And I would definitely target him.
Scott Patsko, be a GM, start crunching some numbers. We talked about Scott on Gotta Watch Tech. Scott has folders. He has tabs on the folders. He has them in his filing case. And he says, I'm going to bring out my free agency folder. Here's my list of guys. Scott, who's number one on your list?
Really, I just have like a Post-it note. I just write real small. That's it. We did our roadmap, our offseason roadmap a while back, and I threw out Will Fuller as an option at wide receiver. But I've moved off Will Fuller because I found someone that I think I'm a little more confident in, and that's Christian Kirk. This again is with the idea that you're swapping out Jarvis Landry. PFF does their projected contracts for free agents. They have Kirk at 3 years, $14 million per year. So you're in the same ballpark as what you were paying Jarvis Landry, but you get a replacement in the slot, a guy who's faster, much faster than Jarvis Landry. Has a really good catch rate, which again, I think is important for this offense because they don't throw to receivers as much. You need guys who are really good at catching the ball. He's been over 60% every year. And then last year it jumped up to almost 75%. But Christian Kirk's a guy I like. And again, then you go out and you draft somebody that you're going to pair with him. You got Peoples-Jones that you hope continues to progress. You got a pretty solid trio going into 2022.
Good start. 2 good names. Ashley, hope your name's as good.
Well, for as much as we've talked about receiver, I did want to go defensive end because just to mix up the conversation a little bit, number one. But the guy who I keyed in on, we have talked about before as making a potential return to Cleveland at this position, and I went with Emmanuel Ogbah. And the biggest question for me, I think, is if the Browns will be willing potentially to turn out a multi-year deal for him. PFF estimates his value 3 years, $15.5 million. So it's a little bit, it's not exactly the Clowney model, right? But I think overall he's just so interesting because he's turned himself into, a pretty solid player since he got traded away from Cleveland. And, he dealt with injuries earlier in his career, but Andrew Berry was in Cleveland when the Browns did pick him in 2016. He was a second round pick. He's obviously gotten good at creating pressure, batting down passes. He obviously has some familiarity with Myles Garrett. And PFF currently has him as the, I believe, 5th best defensive end and 23rd best available free agent. NFL.com has him as the 3rd best defensive end and 15th best available free agent. And coming off this past season, 17 games, 9 sacks, 26 solo tackles. So overall, I just think he could make a really solid, nice return and help beef up some of that defensive line, personnel questions that we have without knowing what Jadeveon Clowney is going to do.
What 3-name player am I going to say the Browns should go after, who I think is similar to a current Browns 3-name player?
Are you thinking fullback? Are we counting Johnny Stanton IV as 3 names? No?
Well, the current one is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah.
Yes. It is not. Jeremiah
Donovan Peoples-Jones.
It's Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Okay. I thought this is where we were heading, but.
So can we guess who I have? 3, 2, 1. Marquez Valdez-Scantling from the Green Bay Packers, who is a 4th-year player, been in the league 4 years, is like more like an ascending guy. He's 6'4", 205. Peoples-Jones is more like 6'2", but it's like a deep threat. And I do think, like, ideally, like, what's Donovan Peoples-Jones going to be ideally? Is he going to be a Pro Bowler? Probably not. But, like, this is a good, reliable guy. He's been, like, kind of like the 3rd receiver for the Packers. The thing I kind of like about this, it's not super exciting. A, he's a little cheaper. PFF has him more like in the $10 million a year range. B, I think you're not paying much for past production. You're paying for future production, because I think he's probably looking to expand his role. I think he would expand his role in Cleveland compared to what he's been sort of behind Devontae Adams and Allen Lazard in Green Bay. So I think maybe not that you get a bargain, but you're not even like a guy like Ogba. It's like Ogba just put up some good stats. What do those stats really mean? I think this guy's better statistical days are ahead of him. In the end, Mary Kay, do you think next week in free agency, the Browns will sign a receiver, like a somewhat significant receiver? Maybe it's not Kirk, maybe it's not Cooper, but somebody.
It sort of depends, in my mind, on if they restructure Jarvis, because I do think if they restructure Jarvis, then he can kind of count as their veteran guy, knowing that they're going to try to go out and draft Garrett Wilson in the 1st round. So if you end up with Garrett and Jarvis and Calvin Austin III and Donovan Peoples-Jones and Anthony Schwartz, you might be okay. So I do think that they will sign a significant free agent receiver or restructure Jarvis and bring him back.